Welcome to Unlock 360, the podcast for champions of public education. Here we explore the connection between leadership, teaching, and learning, and reveal the keys to getting better results for all students. Each episode highlights a change maker who's turning vision into action and creating schools where both educators and students thrive. Welcome back, everyone, to Season 5 of Unlock 360. And we are kicking off with a special guest, Amy Graeber from Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District. Welcome, Amy.
Well, thank you, Wendy, and thank you for having me part of the show today.
It's awesome to have you. Amy, just to kind of kick us off, will you share with our audience a bit about your journey in the educational arena? Like what led you to where you are today, serving as the Chief Instructional Officer for Uvalde?
Absolutely. Well, I've been in education for about 24, 25 years now. So I started off actually as a paraprofessional. And so just kind of working in classrooms, supporting teachers. And then I went to school at night and getting my degree. It was really like a pump up of let's do this. I'm in this. I became a middle school teacher. And then coach. I was coaching as well. I also went to back to school because I was like, man, coaching is just like mentoring. And how can I love up on these babies and how I get them on their paths? Because seeing in middle school, you kind of see lots of different things happening in middle school. And so I loved middle school. Still, middle school is a big part of my heart. Then I became a counselor and I was a counselor at both the elementary, middle school, high school, and alternative school kind of areas. I loved counseling. I did that for a while. And while I was a counselor, I was like, in Texas, we did a lot of transactional work. And so I'm like, man, if I can be an administrator, then the counselor can be true counseling. So I went back and my principal's like, you need to be the administrator. So went back to school, became an assistant principal, took a lot of that transactional work so that real transformational work can happen with my counselors. Became an assistant principal, middle school, high school, moved up to a principal. I worked again at the high school level, middle school level, as well as an alternative school level. I was a correctional facility principal as well. Absolutely loved the work, 100%. And then I got the call to be secondary coordinator director. And then a superintendent called me. Ms. Colas called me to come join her in Uvalde in the rebuilding of Uvalde with kind of my counseling background and that servant leadership heart of mine. And so I am here and I've been here for almost 2.5 years now at Uvalde ISD in that rebuilding phase of our journey.
Okay, wonderful. And so, what district or districts did you work in prior?
I worked in Southwest ISD, East Central ISD, Hope ISD, and Seguin and Floresville ISD.
Oh, okay, wonderful. So you've had some experience in other places as well. Did you know Superintendent Colas before coming to Uvalde?
I did. I worked with her in East Central. And then, so I worked with her in East Central. Then I left East Central to go to Seguin. And then so she called me and said, hey, we have this. I know your heart. I know your skills. Could you come in here? She loves to call me her Swiss Army knife because I can do curriculum, student services, got that counseling background as well. So I have a wide knowledge base. I mean, so that's kind of what we need as we build and my coaching background as well. So it's been a journey.
Yeah, it sure has. You've worn many hats. Thank you so much for the service that you've given to public education. Amy, I'm thinking about the horrible tragedy that Uvalde experienced. And I remember where I was, and I'm recording out of Fort Worth, Texas, had just, moved back home here to Fort Worth and been here for a couple of years when I heard the shocking news and just thinking about what it might be like in your shoes to join a community in a school district that has experienced something like that. So I just wonder if you would just shed some light for us on what it was like when you first joined the school district and where everyone was and maybe how things have evolved since.
Sure. In Uvalde, right after the tragedy, there was a huge turnover, especially at the central office area. I want to say there's very few people at the central office level that were here that day. So as you may know, just being in the school district, when an entire central office department leaves, that's hard on any organization,
Yeah.
right? Your central office is your true engine,
Right.
contrary to belief, yes, you cannot run school without teachers, but you can't run school without your central office either. Everybody does play a very valuable role and unique role within a school district. And so a lot of it was just trying to identify where we're at because that historical knowledge had huge gaps in it, right? Some people left, some people left far away, some people were closer, but wanted to stay out of it because of just the publicity and everything going on. And so you had a gap of knowledge base. So you have someone very knowledgeable in one area that did nothing on some of the other areas. So it's a lot of digging into Google Drives because the other thing that you do not want to do coming in is try to bring everything in new.
Yeah.
So I know it was already when I came in, they'd already signed up for tons of grants, and the state was very generous. And lots of people are very generous with grants, but we also know grant money also has strings attached to almost every single thing, with artifacts and timelines and all the things. So it was literally trying to identify who's doing what role. Like we started at the bottom, roles and responsibilities. We started in like where are we at social emotionally, where are the kids at that were at that day, on top of siblings, on top of teachers. So it was a lot of just trying to understand where the processes and systems are, and then where is everyone out emotionally as well as skill level. So then we can start using some of the things and also trying to manage and mitigate and do what the grant needed so we were able to pay people and to keep the money in the school district.
Well, yeah, I can only imagine, and one thing that I do remember quite vividly is shortly afterwards, I wanna say it was the start of the 22-23 school year that, one of my cousins was in junior high, and my mom had started taking him to school and would drop him off once every couple of weeks just as a special treat, and I remember her telling me that he said he didn't like one of his classes because it was near the front of the school. And that's here in Fort Worth or in the Fort Worth area, not necessarily Fort Worth ISD. We're out on the outskirts, but what did you all learn about where people were, kids and teachers and everyone?
Just like with grief, everybody's in different stages. I go back to my counseling background a lot of times, and the hard part is just because you're in a stage doesn't mean someone else is in that same stage. So a lot of trying to understand where we are personally, but also give that grace to where someone else may be. But also have that understanding, and this has been my biggest preach. There's like you're moving too fast sometimes, and I said I know we're moving too fast, but this is the only time this baby our kiddos are going to be in third grade, is going to be great, is going to be in fifth grade. So I get it. Like I completely understand and I'm here to support 100%. I've been in classrooms. I sit next to kids in classrooms. Um, because this is their only opportunity. And we all know that if that foundation isn't set, then that kid may not be successful the rest of their life. And do we want to chance that? How many generations will this horrific tragedy take from the community, because we are rural as well, right? And so, in rural communities, education is one of our only ways to other areas. A lot of that, right? It's a lot of understanding where we are, and then of course, our community is predominantly Hispanic, so there's also the cultural aspect of understanding the culture on top of the grief, and just respecting. You have to respect other people's culture, whether it's mine or not. I got to it. I got to listen, to lean into listening and to be present. Sending the emails out, right, is not going to get a teacher on board, right? I've done a lot of my coaching with principals and a lot of my communications with like our instructional coaches and my directors on more of that polarity of like how do we do compliance and ownership at the same time, right? Because it's not even about buy-in, because if you can buy in you can buy out, right? It's truly about what is each individual owning, whether it's social emotionally, whether it's academically, whether it's operationally, safety and security, whatever it is. What is my ownership piece in there? And I'm going to give it 110%.
Mhm. That's so true. I really appreciate what you said about when you think about the experience of the children, they only have one shot at each of the grade levels, and there has to be this balance of slowing down, but also we can't stay put. We have to keep moving forward. So how do we heal? How do we and grow at the same time?
Yes, I love that. How do we heal and grow at the same time? 100%.
Yes, okay, and I wanna also, I have a question about, the rural nature of your district, but, first, let me just ask, what is the big rock or what are the big rocks right now for Uvalde? Now here we are starting the 2026 calendar year. Where are you all now?
As in our strategic planning.
Yeah, like, what is it that you're really trying to, accomplish? Like, is the thing or what are the things that you are all trying to, implement district-wide?
So two of the bigger rocks, especially in our strategic planning, it's always about the Murity Bible curriculum, but within that, what we're really focusing in on this year is the coaching, right? Feedback is a gift and coaching is good. So once we get that culture of coaching, the culture of people coming into my rooms, giving me the little granular coaching piece of whether it is, hey, that was a great lesson, breathe, take a breath. Or, oh, you missed that component of the lesson. Hey, you should have used manipulatives, right? So you have both of it. Or, hey, that kid, and sending a counselor in to support that kid. It's taking that feedback, right? Because sometimes we get in our own heads and we get in our own lanes and we can't see anything. And when you have not been in a district that is accustomed to coaching, uh, then really establishing coaching isn't an I got you, right? We go
Right.
someone is not an I got you. So it's establishing that culture and that dignity. So leading with dignity and the coaching culture. Once we get that, like really focusing in on that, then the rest is going to start falling into place because I could go do 45 walkthroughs on a teacher and tell them what to do with their tier one rigor. But unless they're really to accept that coaching and understand how that whole coaching and feedback loop is coming, then it's not going to matter.
Good point. Yes. And how then do you have coaches in place in the district, or how are you tackling that in terms of just getting people, used to being coached, but also having the resources and support for coaching?
Absolutely. We do have instructional coaches on every single campus. We also have school counselors and licensed mental health counselors on every single campus. But we have long range planning for our coaching plan for both principals and instructional coaches. We do a lot on model coaching in our PLCs. My directors also have been getting coaching. And I want to say just really just the coaching language, whether it's in emails or whether it's in our newsletters. We try to put blurbs in there about, coaching and feedback. So it's just making sure that everyone speaks the same language. And then we're bringing in vendors and we're giving them our coaching framework. So when you're coming into Uvalde, this is how we're coaching because I love all the vendors that we have. But if everybody's coaching differently and using different language, then that also kind of, it feels like something new
Right.
or it feels like something is going to change. And two things that you can't do in a community um, that has been consistently changing, and that is and still living in those stages of grief.
Yes, indeed. So then when, you mentioned, like, conducting walkthroughs, what processes do you use, kind of connected back to the guaranteed viable curriculum, how do you as a district, especially a rural district that's very spread out, how do you, ensure consistency, or what processes do you use to measure consistency across school campuses?
So we have been using Rubrics for our PLCs, our ILTs, our PLCs are our clusters or our professional learning communities for our teachers. And then we have them for our ICs, our program facilitators. So the different groups of Java likes. We do a lot of Java like coaching as well across the district. So a lot of even like my principal PLC, we go to campuses. And so we do some Java like practicing. We go into classrooms. We do lots of calibrations right now. So that has been a great strength. So that is a lot of the Java likes. And then just when we're meeting, like it's truly on a canvas and we're going to go in to get feedback. So those kind of presence, and then our rubrics. So like my directors go in and I go in and we're using our rubrics. So where are you in the PLC framework? And then we could get that to the principals with, hey, this is what we saw the past couple times. This is what it's going to take to get us to that next level, which has been very helpful, right? Because feedback is a give, but what to do with it. And so having those rubrics, whether it's a teacher rubric or a principal rubric, I know what that next step is going to be. So it's that kind of clear as kind. No matter what administrator or what director comes in or me, whatever, whoever comes in, it's going to be the same framework, same rubrics, and we just get the same feedback.
That's outstanding. I love it. And how long have you all been, um, working on this? Like,
2 years.
okay. All right, good. And where would you say you are? So if like you had to say maybe like implementing, developing, accelerating, sustaining, kind of in a continuum, something like that, where would you say you are now?
We're definitely developing. We're still developing our processes. And of course, rural communities turnover is real. I still have open AP positions. I have a principal position that's open for next year. So I would say developing simply because turnover is real. And so I want to make sure that's sustainable, right? We say we have systems, but if I walk away tomorrow and it doesn't happen, then it's not a system, it's a person. So I would definitely say we're still growing them to where it's not attached to a person, it's just the way we talk.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You're speaking my language and clear as kind. Yes, that's a proven play, one that we live by. So very, very good stuff indeed. And I also just really appreciate that while it's been 2 years, that you're able to recognize that you're still. It's a journey. Like it's not just we've done that and we've got it down and we're already here. We haven't arrived yet. We're still just in our developing stages. I value that and appreciate you sharing that. Amy, what are some of the challenges um, that you face as an instructional leader of a school district that is so rural and covers so much just land in size wise?
Well, our biggest challenge, and I don't think it may feel a little different out here in the rural areas, but it is our teaching profession in general, our staffing. So we do have a lot of teachers that are uncertified that are teaching in those core areas, which we're state of Texas, and state of Texas is saying not math and reading next year for K through 5, and then the full cool following. I mean, so that has honestly put a lot of fear into my principals as we're trying to, crack through that master schedule building for next year, right? It's who am I going to put in these classes? It's the concern of my interventionist and my coaches are saying like, if we can't hire any teachers, does that mean all the coaching position intervention positions get put in the classrooms? Like that fear is real.
Yes, it would be. So then, does that also create some challenges in terms of class size and things of that nature for the district?
So even right now, we have a math teacher. We had a math position that was open, so we hired probably somebody somewhere in October, and then she just resigned this week, right? And so those kids have been, and it's an algebra 1 class, and in Texas, that's one of our you must graduate. And so one of the things that we're looking at now, it's like even if we hire somebody right now, they're not going to be trained in that curriculum. What are we going to do? So it's like we put all the kids in one room, just put another pair with that master teacher, and then we have them, support. So it's right now trying to figure out what are some of our options that's even going to be options for us for next year. So we're trying to create some strategic staffing models within the spring semester as teachers lead, just to see what can we do, because there that fear is real, and we have a micro school that teaches multiple grade levels, and so with that, is there something that they're doing out there in our smaller consolidated school district that we can use in the bigger areas? So we're just really kind of practicing and trying some strategic staffing models, so we can say, guys, this works. We piloted some of this in the spring, so it works with our kids and our community. How can we incentivize you being that master teacher and then support the kids as you do both classes and make sure that the behavior and the other needs are taken care of as well?
Mhm. Yeah. I'm also thinking about just professional learning, as I know that's one of the areas that you lead in your role. how valuable and important it is for schools to be able to learn from one another. But if you're so rural and spread out, how does that happen? Do you have any tricks up your sleeve, in Uvalde for that?
We do have some good relationships with some of our outline districts. So like Carrizo Springs, they've been here and they walked our schools to see some of the stuff. They were on the verge of implementation. We've also done some coordination with some across Texas, doing some virtual PLCs in some of the areas that say, hey, this we're really successful in this area, and then talk to our teachers, some of our fifth grade teachers. Miss Graeber, we need somebody that has done this. And so I'll jump on the phone and start texting our different people, say, hey, is anybody's team strong in this? And are they willing to jump in a Zoom? So that is also the benefit of some of the COVID. If there's any benefit of COVID,
Yeah.
it's understanding that we can do a virtual PLC, that we can reach across the state and jump online and use some of those resources. And right now, we are so grant heavy that we have tons of support from vendors. And so they're actually helping us out, hooking us up with some exemplar PLCs and instruction for some of our teachers.
Okay, wonderful. And then I guess I'm also just, thinking about what we know in terms of variation that exists even within a school building in terms of outcomes for kids from classroom to classroom, within the walls of that one building. Um, how you mentioned instructional leadership teams or ILTs. What role do they play in terms of reducing variance within a school site?
Absolutely. So, our instructional and leadership team and some of those solution tree campuses, also known those as the Guiding Coalition, all right, they all have a new fancy name. But what we use them for is like our principal, our instructional code, our assistant principal, and our lead teachers. And so, we had a great ILT meeting at the high school the other day because we were talking about NTSS at the high school. And that's always scary at the high school. There's so many kids and trying to get what NTSS is going to look like and what does that even mean. And by the time we broke it down to say, well, it means math, it means reading, it means our English, it means behavior, attendance, it's the whole kid and kind of breaking it down. My CTE teachers are like, what can I do? I need to help this. I can get that kid over there because the name follow up to the top. I can get them to write. They wrote a 3-page paper in my brain yesterday. So then we started making the magic happen. Right. So it was like, okay, so it's that kind of that cross team to say, I never knew about the NTSS because I'm not a reading, but I'm in law and criminal justice side, that sounds like something I could do, or I'm in Spanish class and I can get that kid to work. So give me and I will get them to work. I mean, so that is what our ILT teams do. They dig into that data. They kind of get that campus problem that has bubbled up, or like what is going to block us in our accountability. And then they start troubleshooting on what can they do? What is that ownership piece from my lens? And then I'm going to lead it as that lead teacher. And it doesn't come down from administrators.
Yeah, that's great. And it's really important too because it can be used then as a vehicle to prepare future coaches or assistant principals or principals, for leading in that sort of a role. Should a teacher leader want to look at another pathway in their career?
Right. And just the support. Right. So it's also very, the support is real. And so that is also good knowing that when I go into campus leadership, I don't have to make all the decisions. I don't have to be the one looking through all the data. It's truly a team support.
Indeed. You've mentioned some partnerships with vendors and grants that you all have that are allowing you to put professional learning and resources in place. How do one of the challenges I think every district faces is how to stay focused and clear about what it is they're trying to accomplish with all the things that are important and great, but like how do you keep the main things in Uvalde?
So I do not have that mastered yet. I'm still working on it on a daily basis. That I have gotten a lot clearer. And it's kind of like that in Texas. We use that a effective district framework, and so it's kind of like, what are we adding? What are we going to take away if we're going to add this? So I literally had to have some tough conversations, or even with some vendors that we weren't seeing the results. They have identified us as a model campus, and I get back my score, and they were an F on that campus, and I'm like, that is not the model campus. I mean, so it's kind of like then you have to have some hard conversations and say, guys, this is what we need right now. And if you can't get it, I get it. We're a very unique situation. And so I've had to even get on the phone with TEA and say, look, I can't do this right now, but I can do this. Um, this all is too much, but I need these people to shift their focus to do this. And TA has been very flexible. And they said, okay, so what is that going to look like? And they made me come up with a plan and how they're going to support to stay in line with everything and still produce results for kids. So it's having those tough conversations because for the first year, to be honest, all the grants were running me. And I'm just trying to catch all the artifacts. And I just assumed every vendor was going to do the best for my district. And I'm going to listen because I was learning and listening at the same time. And so this year I've had to be a little more stickler and kind of get us all on the same page. We even have a monthly standing meeting where all the vendors and me, we sit down together and I'm like, this is our focus. And so we've had to do that as well.
That's
So
good.
it's fun.
But that's really smart. And I think that it's pretty rare for school districts to ask vendors to partner with one another, not only just with the district, but to like looking for ways to leverage, those partnerships so that they complement and advance one another. I think that's also one of the like secret sauces that I don't see happening a lot. So some of what you're sharing, just having like a monthly meeting with the vendors, that sounds pretty awesome, Amy. I think that's great. And what a great way to possibly open up some of those conversations too. Um, yeah, thanks for sharing that. I like that. And I wonder how many others are doing something like that, where they look at, okay, how are we really ensuring that our partnerships, that our stakeholders, internal and external, are really all working together towards the same things. And one of my favorite protocols that accompanied the Taking Action Guide by Michael Fullen and Joanne Quinn with their coherence framework was the reduce, remove, reframe. Like, what do we need to, like, reduce? What do we need to take away completely? What do we need to reframe in a way that's meaningful for the district? And I feel like instructional leaders in your role and those in your department or on your team, um, there's often a challenge of, like, when it comes to that guaranteed viable curriculum or what that, instructional framework is and includes for curriculum, resources for instructional practices, assessments, cultural practices, climate, practices, like, how like, keeping it clear for teachers because there are new things all the time, and innovating is great, but also how do you keep it clear for teachers, like, what are really the must-do things and what are the may-dos and what are the things that, like, we've totally let go of that, like, that's not a thing anymore, can be so challenging.
And I've noticed it's even more challenging for some of our veteran teachers because it's like you have to let go of it. Like you don't have to, copy paste it. Like, no, no, no. See, that's what you're doing. Like, that's not the reason. Let's redo it. So it's you have to say, do you want to be like, we stopped doing this so we could do this. And sometimes some of my veteran teachers are just so accustomed that they'll just keep adding and adding and adding to their plate and they're more efficient. So you don't see them stressing out until almost it's too late.
That is so insightful. Yes, because it's like, wait a second, but you're stressed and you're overwhelmed and you're doing all this stuff, but hold on, half of what you're doing you don't need to do anymore.
So we've got to sit down and be like, show me what you do. And I'm like, you don't
Yeah.
have to do that stuff. Really? Where am I going to get it? You're going to get it here instead. It's already there. It's already there. I didn't know that. Okay, well then let's be clear it anyways. But that's what I've noticed about my veteran teachers. My new teachers don't know the difference, but my veteran teachers, instead of replacing or stopping, they're just adding to. And it's like, oh no, guys. And if there's a step that where something's missing, let us know and let's see if we can build it together so that way you don't just keep adding because we can't keep adding.
That's really insightful. I like that nugget. That's a good one. I think it's probably so true. It's like sometimes we do things to ourselves we don't even realize we do to ourselves, and always with good intention. But getting weeding through that to get to what really matters most. That's important for sure.
Absolutely.
Amy, it has been a pleasure having you on our show today. To wrap up, I wanted to ask you, sometimes teaching and leading in public education can feel somewhat thankless of a job. I guess it kind of depends on where you are and in your position and what kind of community you work in. And, yeah, sometimes people will say thank you, but it's so heavy and it's so much. And I think sometimes we forget to stop and really appreciate and honor and say thanks to those that have made a difference. So if there were a teacher or a leader, or maybe there's, one of both that really stand out, but just someone you might want to honor today, who might it be and why?
I would love probably one of the best principals that I've looked up to and who told me you need to do administration. Kind of had that counseling background. Was my principal, and she had so much grace. She didn't put up with a whole lot. But she was the one that people would go to and just cry, and she goes, and let's figure this out together. So her whole collaborative, her whole leadership style, just who she is as a person would be Brenda Law. And she's probably one of my best mentors that I've ever worked under, and a phenomenal woman.
I love that. Brenda, I hope you are watching. And for all of you, if you have found value in this, please do remember to like the video, share it with friends, family, coworkers, and do hesitate to unlock 360 to join us for more fantastic conversations with the change makers out there in the educational space, fighting the good fight for kids. Amy, if someone wants to learn more about Uvalde and look into, maybe calling the community their next new home, or um, a potential position like an assistant principalship that you have open in the district, where would they?
They would come to Uvalde, UVALDECISD.net, and please look on our website and see some of the wonderful things and our beautiful students that our district is doing.
I love that so much. Yes. Okay. Rehealing and growing all at the same time in Uvalde. Amy, thanks again. And everyone, thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Thank you for joining us on Unlock 360. If this conversation sparked new thinking, share it with a colleague and keep the dialogue going in your school district. Public education is complex work, and progress happens when leadership and teaching move together. I'm Wendy York Davoud. Until next time, keep building the systems that unlock what's possible, because strong leadership drives deeper learning.